Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my privilege to rise to present a petition in support of victims of crime. The undersigned from Toronto state that a positive legacy must emerge from the loss of so many, including Kempton Howard, an inspiring young man who was dedicated in helping others in my community of Toronto-Danforth, played a leadership role in working with youth, but who was murdered in Toronto on December 13th, 2003. The 10th anniversary will only be 2 days from now. The petitioners ask that, amongst a number of things, for a new approach to supporting victims of crime, and are calling on the federal government, amongst other things, to create a meaningful countrywide system of public support for the loved ones of murder victims as well as the victims of crimes themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I join my colleague from Toronto-Danforth in rising today to submit a petition to the House in support of victims of crime. And that despite police warnings and international treaty obligations, the Conservatives are refusing to enforce simple rules that would help track and curb gun trafficking, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, among other things, we also call to ensure stable, reliable, long-term funding for programs that help divert youth away from guns and crimes and help keep our streets and communities safe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I join my colleague from Toronto-Danforth, excuse me, in submitting a petition on the issue of victims of crime. In my riding of Parkdale High Park, we've had certainly instances of gangs and crime, and I have a number of citizens of Toronto who have signed a petition calling for a meaningful countrywide system of public support for loved ones of murder victims and victims of crime, but also a long overdue comprehensive anti-smuggling strategy to deal with the issue of guns and drugs coming across our borders. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I stand today to deposit a petition in support of victims of crime. I join my colleagues from the City of Toronto in saying that a positive legacy must emerge from the loss of so many of our young people in Toronto and all other cities across the country. I deposit today a petition that's called Kempton's Legacy Petition, where the signatories call for a meaningful countrywide system of public support for the loved ones of murder victims, and they want to ensure a stable, long-term, reliable funding for programs that help divert youth away from gangs and criminality. Mr. Speaker, we want to, the petitioners are calling also for the reversal of the reckless cuts that this Conservative government has made to the CBSA fund.
Speaker, I too present a petition signed on behalf of many constituents who are seeking to remember Kempton Howard by making sure that this government creates a countrywide system of public support for the loved ones of murder victims, as well as ensuring stable, long-term funding to keep youth away from gangs and crimes, and to reverse the reckless cuts to the Border Services Agency that allows so many guns and drugs to enter our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like my neighbour, the member for Toronto-Danforth, I too am proud to table Kempton's legacy petition in the House, and I share in the hope that from this petition might emerge a positive legacy from the deaths of too many youth in my city of Toronto, like Kempton Howard. Kempton's legacy petition calls in part on the Government of Canada to ensure stable, reliable, long-term funding for programs that help divert youth away from gangs and crimes and help keep our streets, and communities safe. Thank you.
I am presenting a petition in memory of Kempton Howard and other murdered young men, calling for better youth employment programs and stop the smuggling of guns into Toronto.